right, good afternoon, everyone. This is Chad Eddy. It is about a minute after 1. We're going to give it a couple of minutes before we get started. But while we do, just thank you guys for joining. We appreciate it, and we're looking forward to a great discussion here. Like I said, we'll give it another minute or two to see who joins, and then we'll get started.
So, Chad, we talked a little bit about this. What is that you got going there behind you?
That is my tile mosaic I put together in the middle of the night last night, specifically for this event.
What's the meaning behind any of that? Is there any specific meaning behind the mosaic that you can share?
No, I'm still working on it. I'm pretty much a thoughtless artist. Yeah.
Well done. Well done.
And then Kurt's got the Civil War pick.
Yep.
From the hundreds popping behind him.
Yeah. That's my grandpa right there.
I apparently have the clean slate.
Well, yeah, Mike erased his secret sauce. There was, I just wanted to take a screenshot to see what you had back there. And
yes.
Well, why don't we go ahead and get started? Hopefully, as you guys can tell, this is going to be fun and interactive. We've got a great panel with us today. Couple of logistical things. You will notice in your control panel, if everyone sees their control panel, there is a PDF attached for everybody. Just a quick reference guide and some information about our panelists and some contact information as well. Hopefully, everyone will learn something new today from the group. And if you have follow-up questions, we wanted to make sure everyone had everybody's contact information. So hopefully you can see that PDF. I believe, Jared, it'll go out as a follow-up as well. Is that right?
It won't be necessarily attached to the follow-up email that'll go out. But if anybody has any questions, Chad, I just threw your email address in there and they can reach out to you if they want to talk to any of us.
Perfect. We have a great panel with us today. We're going to take probably 25 minutes with some back and forth. We'll try to keep the banter and the chirping to a minimum. We've had plenty of that getting ready for this today. But we do have some really valuable perspective. And then what we'll do at the tail end, we'll use the chat feature. Hopefully everybody can see the chat box off to the right as well. Important to note, you have options who to chat to, and you'll see one of the options are organizers and panelists. So if you want to give that a try, anyone wants to give that a try, go into the chat box and shoot a message to the group. We'll use that at the end as anybody has questions. We really want this to be interactive. This is not intended to be a presentation. So we'll get through. We've got some loaded questions for the group. Just some background, and I'll do a quick introduction of our panel here. It's been interesting, and my name is Chad Eddy, by the way, if for those that you may not know me, as the CEO of Indium. I have the pleasure of working with this group day in and day out, and it's been interesting. Of course, as we all know, it's an interesting time we live in now, and we're all learning. Obviously, no one anticipated the world we live in, so we're all learning how to get through this. And I have the pleasure of working with this group on a day-to-day basis. And you know, in a one-off setting, you know, I'll talk with Jared with Empower HR, talk about people issues and things like that. And it's interesting what he gets to see from his perspective and helping his clients. And then I'll talk with Kurt from JL Thomas about life insurance and what he's seeing, and same with Dean from an E&O perspective, and Mike from Live Oak Bank, what he's seeing. And collectively, I kind of took all that in over the last several months and thought it might be a good idea for our agents to hear just this interesting perspective that I think the group offers us. I've learned a lot. I have the pleasure of working with this group, like I said, day in and day out. They are great colleagues, great partners, and I consider them friends. So I'll do a quick introduction. Jared Gibson. Jared, thanks for being with us. Jared from Empower HR. Empower HR is a HR outsourcing firm as well as a PEO organization. We as Indium have the pleasure of working with Empower. They handle all of our HR, payroll, and benefits. So from the people side of everything we do, we lean very heavily on Jared and his team, and I think he's got a great perspective from what they're seeing on the people side of business and how living and working in a pandemic is impacting that side of what we do. Kurt Thomas. Kurt, thanks for being here. Kurt from JL Thomas, life insurance brokerage that we've been partners with for a long time, and I get to again kind of work with Kurt as partners, but also Kurt is an equity owner of Indium as a part of our partnership, and very interesting perspective. Life insurance, of course, being kind of the other side of the business that we take care of, and something maybe we don't see a lot or hear a lot about, but in interacting with Kurt, learned a lot in terms of what's happening in his world and how that affects agents. So I'm looking forward to Kurt and what he has to share. Dean Milber from CalSurance. Dean, thanks for being here. We've had the pleasure of working with Dean over the last several months. As hopefully some of you know, we've worked with Dean putting together our E&O program for our agents. Something new that we've been able to bring to the table thanks to Dean and what he's been doing for us. E&O, obviously a very hot topic in a world like we live in now. So it seems like Dean sends me an email a day in terms of what's going on in that space and keeping us informed. So that's been great, and I'll look forward to Dean sharing with you guys what's happening in our E&O world. And last but certainly not least, our Roll Tide participant, Mike. I had to. I couldn't stop myself. Mike Strackoff from Live Oak Bank. I've been working with Mike, frankly, since the day I started with MarketSource, now Indium, for the last 7 years. Mike, our partner at Live Oak Bank, handling all things lending and in a periphery way, valuation, agency valuation, perpetuation planning, and all the things that go into all that. And again, learning from Mike everything that's happening in that space and what he's seeing working with agents across the country has been super interesting. So guys, thanks for being here. This is hopefully going to be fun and interactive. I know we've got some loaded questions for the group. And what I'll do is I'll just do round robin with some questions for you guys, and of course piggyback off each other's answers. And then for everybody participating in the panel discussion, again, we'll look for the chat feature at the end of the discussion, and we'll handle Q&A. So, you know, Jared, I guess I'll start with you, and a broad question for all you guys. Maybe we can just go around the proverbial table. What are you hearing? What are you hearing from your clients, from the people side of things? I know employer risk is always something we need to be thinking about, and the world has changed dramatically. So, what broadly are you hearing out there?
Yeah, no, it's you know, we're definitely seeing an uptick in conversations with our clients. I mean, if I could put them into buckets, I probably would say there's 3 main buckets that we're hearing right now. One, you know, people are in survival mode, right? You know, what happens if the business can't survive at this point? We deal with, our client base are small to medium-sized companies, right? So, and we work directly with the owners of a lot of these companies. So is the worst yet to come? I think that there's going to still be a lot of collateral damage for the next 12 to 18 months with everything that's going on right now. And I'm sure that, I know that brokers are seeing the same thing with a lot of their clients. So what's the downstream impact of everything that's going on? You know, I'd call my advisors, you guys, right? Bankers, attorneys, HR partners, CPAs, and ask, you know, how do I pivot my business to sustain the blow? If the blow hasn't happened, there's a good chance that it's going to happen, right? So there's a lot of hard decisions that already have been made, but on top of that, there's still going to be hard decisions that need to be made down the road. So I would say that again, survival mode is one. On the flip side of that, growth that wasn't anticipated with a lot of our clients right now. You know, are they ready for that growth? You know, it's directly going to affect their customer experience. So is the staff large enough? Does the growth require different skill set than the people that you currently have internally? Do you have that right profile? Do you have the right cash flow to support the tools or the systems that need to be in place to again, support that growth? We're encouraging our clients that are in this boat to don't just make decisions to make decisions, make the right decisions, right? You got to work at pace, and these decisions do need to be made, but don't just do it just to do it. So again, survival mode, not anticipating the growth, but the one that I'm sure that everybody's seeing across the board is performance issues right now. There's a lot going on, a lot of stuff that people are dealing with. So while it's easy just to say performance issues at a surface level, we're encouraging our clients to dig deeper and understand what's affecting those performance issues, right? You've got people that have typically been really good performers that all of a sudden aren't performing how they've done in the past before pre-COVID. Well, there's reasons for that, right? So we're really encouraging our clients to focus on the mental health of their employees. Listen, people have been sitting at home alone in their own thoughts on the computer all day, on these Zoom calls all day. That affects your mental health. You're back in the office. People are walking around like zombies with masks on all day, right? I mean, that's going to affect people's brains. And then thankfully, I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. Thankfully, their school started back up, but my wife's just as busy as I've been. And I know that when all this stuff first initially happened, having the kids at home, it definitely affected us personally, right? So you've got kids that now are in front of screens all day. So you've got I've got to do my job over here, but I got to be a parent over here. These worlds are colliding right now. So it's absolutely going to affect the performance issues of your employees, but you can't just say performance issues and leave it here. You got to dig deeper and ask questions and understand where it's coming from. So those are the three, I would say, the 3 buckets of what we're really seeing an uptick in since this all started with our clients.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, hopefully that resonates with everyone. I know that completely makes sense. Running a company with now virtual employees, and home is now work and work is now home, and all those issues are blending together. And I think what we've seen, and I think forgiveness is kind of our mentality. I mean, being on a call with partners, they're literally holding their 6-month-old, feeding them while we're on a conference call, and that's acceptable. Like, we got kitchens in our backgrounds. That's acceptable. That's just the world we live in, and it's a forgiving world.
It's the I hate saying new normal, because it's like, I just hate saying new normal. I hate hearing new normal, but it is what it is right now. I mean, that's what the situation we're in. So if you've got a problem with a kid crawling onto the screen or a dog jumping up or bark, like, get over it, man. That's 2020. I won't say new normal.
Yeah. Kurt, I'm looking at you next. I've got all sorts of questions in my head, and I know, primarily for you, what you do in the life insurance space, there's all sorts of moving parts, and just in general, what are you seeing with clients? And I know you work with a lot of our agents as well, just helping them out. Typically is a face-to-face type interaction, or maybe underwriting rules have changed. What in general are you seeing in your world?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing that we've seen is a change in underwriting. Clients don't want to see paramedical exam nurses with social distancing. So what we've seen, and we represent about 25 different carriers, so all the major ones you can think of. They've done a really good job of adapting to the consumer. And instead of having to see a nurse and blood and urine analysis, you can get life insurance now. Some companies go up to $5 million without having to do an exam. So accelerated underwriting has really taken off, and we've seen companies increase their thresholds in terms of amounts. Another shift that we've seen is temporary underwriting guidelines. The disease mortality data is still emerging. It started as a respiratory disease, and now we're kind of seeing it can lead to cardiac problems, clotting issues, renal problems. So it seems like every day we're getting emails from our home office underwriters coming out with restrictions. So 2 areas that is pretty common is foreign travel. So if you have any foreign travel planned, you're going to be postponed, just about by every single company. And then older age applicants, 70 and above, have higher mortality rates if they catch COVID-19. So carriers have temporarily postponed older age applicants, or if you have a lot of pre-existing underwriting concerns. So in life insurance land, those are called rate classes. So we typically, the highest rating you can get right now is between a 4 and a 6. Otherwise, you're going to be postponed. So yeah, we've seen a big shift. I mean, every policy that gets delivered now requires a statement of good health saying, hey, since you signed your application, has your health changed? Have you been to a doctor? Insurance company, from a capital and liquidity and needs analysis, they price pandemics into the actuary guys when they price out the policies. I don't think that it's going to impact carriers from a financial standpoint. I think low interest rates right now are really hurting insurance carriers. the treasury yields. Insurance companies primarily invest in corporate grade bonds and treasury yields. So the low interest rate environment is actually hurting our industry more than COVID. But yeah, that's basically what we're seeing over on our side, Chad.
There's a lot going on there. That's awesome. Dean, it's a great segue because I think you and I have very similar conversations with the work you do in the E&O space, and even more broadly, kind of the legal impact of the E&O side of things. What are you seeing, and what can you share with the group?
Well, I mean, there is, from an E&O perspective, you're looking at both the underwriting side and the claim side. From the underwriting side, with respect to broker E&O policies, agent E&O policies, you see a tremendous change in the underwriting scheme of things. There's a lot of carriers who've been dipping their toes in the E&O space for many years and now leaving the space. Those that have been traditional E&O writers are either not writing new business or not writing new business, especially if the brokers have a large percentage of commercial business, for example. You have a lot of E&O carriers that are pulling back on limits that they're going to offer, pulling back on coverages. Most of the brokers that are listening now, if they're applying for E&O, they may be having to answer COVID-related questions. Have they any potential COVID-related claims, or any of their customers have had COVID-19 business interruption claims denied? And you might even have a COVID-19 exclusion slapped on a policy here and there. And then you're obviously seeing increasing premiums and higher deductibles and things of that nature. From on the claim side of things, with respect to brokers and agents themselves, everybody's expecting a rather large uptick in the number of claims to be expected. Right now, we've seen a couple of lawsuits. Most of the claims themselves are right now notices of potential claims, while we await both policyholders and insurance companies to adjust business interruption claims, deny or otherwise, and then work those coverage litigation matters through the courts. And then we expect the cases to flow. If you use historical standards, Superstorm Sandy, Hurricane Harvey, and Katrina, we usually see a 50% uptick. Now, while that's regional, I think it will translate into more national as well. And I was speaking to someone the other day from Swiss Re Westport, a writer of E&O, and they expect 75% of their agents to get at least one COVID-related E&O claim. So it's both on the claim side and underwriting, people are walking a very tight rope. I think with respect to brokers themselves, they have to operate differently in the world in which they're operating to try and do some risk management that they may not have done before with respect to their own customers. Markets, we read every day, markets are hardening quite a bit, especially in D&O, EPL, certain industries like restaurants and healthcare. And I think it's important that brokers manage their clients' expectations and document what they're managing. Let the clients know the underwriting environment in which we're operating in, both for the placement of business, not only the E&O side, but on the business that the brokers are writing. So I think managing expectations is critical as we go forward.
Got it. Great. Thanks, Dean. Mike, same question. I know that the world you live in, working with agents and helping them with lending and valuation and all the things that used to be normal and standard clearly aren't anymore. So, what are you seeing on your side?
Thanks, Chad. Needless to say, 2020 has been an interesting year from a lot of perspectives. And if I just look at, looking back, we went from, a great first quarter in financing, and to put it in context, my comments will be around lending specifically to insurance agents. So came out at the beginning of the year, I think overall M&A activity, has been at historic highs for, the last few years. And 2020 was shaping up to be something similar, as far as you can tell, at least for first quarter. COVID hits, a lot of the capital markets are trying to figure out what that means to them. Many banks and lenders, begin to inwardly focus and look at their portfolio. How is that going to perform? How well is it going to survive? Do we continue to lend money, or do we spend time with existing customers to help them through it? We were fortunate enough to be able to go through that process pretty quickly, but on top of that, moved right into the PPP, the Payroll Protection Program, which really got a lot of agents focusing on how are they going to survive and take advantage of the program, what other crisis and stimulus type monies might be out there. So I think there was a level of distraction as it related to M&A activity during that time for not only lenders, but agents themselves. Self-preservation might have been the the theme of the day. But I would say, come June, I would say it was like a light switch. We've never been busier. We probably had the best third quarter in financing acquisitions that we've had as a bank in the insurance space. We work with a number of consultants around the country, and they would echo those comments that they've never been busier. So there's definitely a robust M&A market, and that continues. And there's a number of things that are going on that's driving that. One, I mentioned, some of the stimulus dollars that came out, and some of the programs lend, people maybe moving up timelines and trying to take advantage of some great programs there. Interest rates, which were mentioned by Kurt earlier, are somewhat historic lows. Good time to get money and acquire an agency if you're looking for a low interest rate. There's a number of people that I think that had been on the fence on whether they want to sell their agency or not. Kind of came off the fence and said, hey, if things like this can happen, I might not necessarily have a plan, or the plan I have might not necessarily work in these circumstances. I think there's a number of people now that have kind of loosened up their thoughts and are probably moving towards transition of ownership sooner than they would have anticipated, which is nice. Probably no need to remind everyone on the call, but it is an election year, and depending on how that goes, there's likely going to be a change if maybe one side wins than another in tax laws. And there's a lot of concern about what that means from a capital gains perspective. Most of these folks are, in a situation that they would be hurt by that if the capital gains does go up. So we've had a number of people that have said, hey, I've been on a 1 or 2, 3 year plan to sell the agency, but I think I might want to do that now in 2020 before there's an opportunity for the tax laws to change, which, believe it or not, has really fueled a lot of activity. And I would say other factor that's certainly worthy of commenting is that valuations have been at an all-time high. Who knows, 18 months from now where they'll be. So why not get, while the valuation's high, the interest rate's low, there's lenders out there willing to do it. There's stimulus money that's out there, potential tax changes. It's really the culmination of a lot of things that's driving people to maybe look at, their personal situation differently. And when I look at it on the seller side, many buyers are looking to take advantage of that as well, because more deals are probably going to be in the marketplace and more opportunity for acquisitions as we move at least through the end of the year, if not later, as people evaluate their options.
That's fascinating. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, maybe I'll just lend my perspective, as a network and what we're hearing from our agents, just to complement what everyone's heard here from the panel. It's been interesting. We're hearing now more and more, we're in a hard market, right? So I think we're in our 3rd straight quarter of a hard market, depending on who you listen to. Companies like us as a network, where that's what we do, is provide options, access to markets. We have had the busiest year that I can remember since being here. And you hate to think we're benefiting from such a terrible situation. We fully expected too that new business would shut down, that would just dry up. It would be all hands on deck for renewals, and that would be all the work we would do for our agents. And, Jared, to your point, we went through a kind of an oh crap moment when we realized what was happening and what does this mean to us. Certainly down the road, I think from an insurance standpoint, many of the impacts we feel financially there's a tail on it, right? So we'll feel this year's effect next year. And so we're still kind of anticipating that. But operationally, it was, where's our focus need to be? And we thought, man, all hands on deck on renewals. New business is going to dry up, everyone pivot their focus, and really both picked up. So our new business has virtually doubled from this time last year. And I think that's the hard market we're in. Agents need options. And that's been our focus, and it's been great. I think coupled with that is helping agents do this virtual thing. So learning how to interact as virtual partners. We, as many of you know, we've been a virtual company since the end of 2018. So certainly we had time to plan for it. We did not know a pandemic was coming, contrary to popular belief. We didn't know. Our crystal ball isn't that good. So, fortunate for us, we had a chance to plan for it, but for our agents who did not, we had a little bit of fun helping them pivot on the fly to this virtual environment and getting them comfortable with systems like Microsoft Teams and how to collaborate when you're not down the hall from each other. And then, that evolution where agents are now getting comfortable prospecting again, but virtually. So getting producers busy again and doing it in a empathetic way. I forget there is a fancy term for how do you go back on offense selling when really, all of us are, personally, we got lives impacted, and you want to be sensitive to everyone's lives, even though our job is to sell and to grow. So we're seeing everybody kind of transition into that growth mode, but albeit from a virtual perspective. So in the interest of time, I've got 27 minutes after 1. That was great, you guys. I appreciate that. Maybe I'll go back around the table one more time, and then we'll open it up for some chats. We got the agents, in our virtual audience listening and taking in. How about just a bit of advice? What advice would you give our agents from each of your perspectives, your areas of expertise? Give them something to take away from their time today. And I'll go reverse this time. Mike, I'll start with you. What advice would you give our agents listening today?
Great. So thanks, Chad. Whether this is COVID or otherwise, the current environment, I think this advice always holds true, is to run your agency like you're going to sell it tomorrow. Your agency really should be run like a business, has profitability. You run it truly like a business, and really have a track record of success, growth, plan for the future. Particularly if you're going to be looking for financing, and we have a lot of times agents will come to us. It appears that they woke up on Monday and want to sell on Tuesday, or woke up on Monday and want to be an acquirer on Tuesday. Doesn't give you a lot of time to clean things up. And I think really a realistic assessment, whether that's hiring a professional or doing it yourself, is really kind of breaking down your agency and getting a better understanding of where can you improve, how can you improve, and will you improve, and making that commitment to move forward. So really kind of giving, maybe a cold bucket of water or an opportunity to really take a look at your agency. And that goes from, the quality of the book of business, the diversity of the book of business, the profitability of that business within your book, really having a good story to tell on, the diversity of the book of business, how you've been impacted by COVID, what you've done to be able to work remotely, what are the technologies that you've either invested in or utilizing in order to be a remote agent, if that's going to be a requirement in the future. So there's a lot of things that you could be doing now to really position your agency to either get financing or maximize value if you're looking to sell. It's really not a 1, 2, 3, or 4 month process. For some people, it could be a five-year process, but you really, should have a better understanding of kind of what your short and long-term goals are and run your agency accordingly.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. And I'll add to that. We frequently survey our agents along the lines of perpetuation. We ask basically 3 basic questions. Do you have a perpetuation plan? Is it internal or external? And is it documented? And I think last run we saw about 75% of our agents had a perpetuation plan. 80-ish, little over 80% was internal. Less than 50% was documented. Okay. And to your point of planning, and I think it's a point of attention for our carriers. Like you said, it's a point of attention for banking and lending. Documenting that plan is really important. So I know it's in their heads and they've got that person identified, but documenting forces maybe even some more thought, plans B, C, and D, because best laid plans don't always work out. So
one thing we tell people, if it's not in writing, you don't have a plan. So what do we look at?
Right. Thank you, Mike. Dean, how about from you? Any advice for our agents listening?
Well, it's funny. I gave a seminar yesterday on social media and texting to a bunch of agents, and it's kind of analogous to what we're going through now. So you're operating in a virtual world. You're selling, you're handling your clients, you're dealing with carrier partners, things of that nature. So the question becomes, from a risk management standpoint, you have to embrace it. I think in a lot of respects, it's going to be a way we are going to operate on a moving forward basis. There's never going to be going back to the way it was. There's going to be a new creation of how we operate our agency business and all business. I deal with London quite a bit, and while downtown London and the city by Lloyd's, it's very empty these days. They're making their way back, but they're making their way back differently, and they're not going to have people coming into the office the way they had them coming into the office before. So I think we have to accept that, and you have to adjust your risk management skills at your agency, at your agency accordingly. So you have to embrace it. You have to set, I think, risk management policies for your employees about how you expect them to operate. You should have I talked about yesterday about a social media and texting policy. I think there should be an agency-wide virtual work policy that's in writing that needs to be enforced for employees, so people have to know what their expectations are. And you need to know when to bring operating in the virtual world back into your agency management system. So there's going to be look, this is very informal, right? We're commenting on Chad's brilliant piece of mosaic behind him. And people are going to be loose, and they're going to be carefree, and they're going to say things that they might not have otherwise said in an other different business setting. And, things could happen. It could lead to miscommunication. It could lead to more exposure and things of that nature. So there's going to come a point when we have a discussion like we're having now, you want to bring it back into more traditional business operations. And you have to establish what works for your agency to do that, and make sure there's a plan in effect, and make sure all your employees know that. And you want to capture all of this stuff in your agent management system so you could document. I use a phrase that, in an E&O situation, if it's not in writing and you can't confirm what happened, it never happened. It can't be all verbal like we're talking right now. So if I give Chad an order for business right now, how is he going to document that into his agent management system? So you need to develop a plan, I think, at your agency to take this virtual world in which we're doing business now into your agent management system. I think that's a critical thing to take away from today from an E&O risk management perspective.
That's great. That's great. We have an agent that we work with for all of our risk management and business insurance, and he's got a very robust questionnaire. We are exhausted after an hour and a half with him, but going through a risk management assessment, reputational risk, financial risk, technology risk, data risk, man, it really forces you to think through things that you either don't want to think through or hadn't thought about. Man, I should think about that. And that's one thing, like you said, Dean, we've had those conversations in our past in our office. And you think, okay, in the confines of our office, this is our world, but now our office is everywhere. We have employees in Utah and South Carolina and Ohio, and now he's asking us a whole new set of questions that we haven't really thought about. So that's good advice. Kurt, how about from you?
Yes, so I think right now people are thinking about getting sick and dying, and we've seen an uptick in application count. So I would say meet with your clients and review their current life insurance policies because it's on their mind. And kind of what Dean was saying, embrace the change. The old way of doing life insurance has certainly changed, where you're not filling out a 30-page paper application, printing it off and mailing it, or seeing your clients in person. We've seen a tremendous increase in the use of electronic applications, electronic delivery, electronic health records. So that's a big area. So all these health providers are focusing their attention on dealing with the pandemic. And so these big hospitals like Cleveland Clinic, it's taken 2 months to get medical records. Sometimes you have to get medical records to underwrite a life insurance policy. And so what we've been utilizing is e-health records. So your health portal, you can get records from the Cleveland Clinic in a matter of 2 hours now. And a lot of the companies are starting to utilize electronic health records. So embrace the change. I think it's changing habits permanently moving forward, which will ultimately make the agent more efficient and profitable.
Awesome. Thanks, Kurt. Jared, how about you? Advice for our agents?
Yeah, I mean, so if you, bear with me on this one. Don't make it so hard on yourself. Don't make it as complicated as it is right now. It is not easy to go out and sell and bring in new business. Retaining business is not easy right now. I would say focus on your strategic partnerships that you either have put in place or that you will be putting in place, right? We work with brokers every day. Clients are asking the brokers for HR support, right? So we're working with brokers. We offer HR consulting and support, payroll, compliance, HR administration. And Chad, you mentioned we also have a PEO product, but we have the option of being able to carve that piece off. So when we partner with brokers, we're attacking their prospects or clients. You know, they may have a client that is looking for PEOs, so they'll bring us on board as a partner to keep that client. They may have clients that are small to mid-market that don't have an HR presence internally. They're bringing us in to help with their client. They may have a client that has, you know, HR on staff that can't meet the needs of the business from a strategic or an administrative standpoint today. So they're bringing us in, but they're bringing us in, right? And we're doing the same thing the way that we're going out. We're focusing on our strategic partnerships and not trying to do everything all at once by yourself. Like, there's people out there that you can bring to the battlefield with you. Do it. And it's worked wonders for our team. And I've talked to brokers and a lot of them that we just started working with because they realize that their company's HR infrastructure, their clients' HR infrastructures are crumbling at their feet, and they're like, man, we need to get you guys some help. And their mindset is, you know, we should have focused more on these relationships previous than trying to do everything on our own. So that would be my advice. Don't make it as hard as it is right now, and use that business and keep the business where it is.
Yep. Right on cue. We have a dog barking in the background. That's awesome. Yes. Well, guys, this is awesome. I want to open it up to our agents on the call. Again, use the chat feature. Address it to organizers and panelists. Hopefully you all can see it off to your right in your control panel. There's a chat feature. Jared, keep an eye out, and if anything comes across. I do want to reinforce with our agents today. Hopefully you're getting a sense of just listening to Mike and Kurt and Dean and Jared. These are our partners, and these are partners that are available to you just by way of our partnership as being a partner of Indium. So you can see, you know, the benefit I get day in and day out getting to work with these guys. And I just want to reinforce Jared's point of these are partners for you as well. This is why we bring you guys to the table. And oh gosh, I saw a bunch of smiles, and I'm like, I might have a fly on my hair, or someone's chatting something about. Yes, okay.
Looks like somebody has a question from the audience.
Yes, we have.
Catching the Ohio State game last year.
It was an incomplete pass. For the record, I'll be sending out a video to everyone as a follow-up. It was an incomplete pass.
Like a catch and a fumble on the return for 6 to me, but that's just me.
Plenty of chirping in this group. I'm glad we started off with that. So we'll keep an eye out on the chat for any questions for the panel from the group on football related.
Chad, I'll throw in, Chad, thanks for putting this together. I think we can get this out to a lot of people, and hopefully that everybody that was in attendance saw some benefit in it, and took 1 or 2 points away from it. So again, thanks for bringing everything together, and thanks to you guys too for jumping on and taking time out of the day.
Absolutely.
I know Mike's heavily focused right now on Nick Saban and making sure he's okay.
Oh, that's right.
I'm heading to his house after this call, so I'll report back to the group. So far, so good. I'm expecting to see him on the sideline in a glass booth that obviously bulletproof, but hopefully germ-free. So we'll see where that goes.
All right, guys, I do not see any questions in the chat. Jared, do you see any on your side, or does anybody see any chats coming through?
No, I think we answered every possible question that was out there.
Yeah, that was the only remaining question, was that football question. But yeah, I'd like to also echo Jared's comments. Thanks for setting this up, Chad. Certainly appreciate it.
You got it. You got it. Yeah, well, listen, if there aren't any questions from our audience, we certainly are happy to give people their time back. We had till 1:45, so I think this is perfect timing. We'll send out some follow-up information. Again, remind you guys on the call, there's a handout attached in the panel, the tools panel there. There's a PDF with all of our contact information. Jared, Kurt, Dean, and Mike, hopefully you guys all got a sense of how lucky we are to have them by our side. Again, available to all of our agents anytime you guys need them. And thank you guys for making this fun and being a part of it. We'll do more of it as we go. So
sounds great. Thanks again.
Thanks,
all right, you guys. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.